It was a cold February morning in 1940. The world was holding its breath. In Europe, war had begun, but in New York City, life went on. People rushed to work. The city felt safe, an ocean away from the trouble, but a shadow had fallen over it. Federal agents had been watching a man. His name was William Siebold. He seemed ordinary, just another German immigrant trying to make a life in America. But the FBI knew he was more than that. They had followed him, they had listened to his calls, they had waited for the right moment to act. That moment had now arrived. The agents approached him quietly. There was no grand chase through the busy streets of Manhattan. They showed him their badges. Siebold's face, they would later recall, showed not surprise but a strange kind of relief. He had been living a double life, torn between two powerful forces. On one side was the land he had left behind, now under the dark rule of Adolf Hitler. On the other was his new home, America, a place of freedom that was unknowingly in great danger. His arrest was not an end, but a beginning. It was the first thread pulled from a vast and dangerous tapestry. Who was this man, William Siebold? The man at the center of the web was not William Siebold. He was a phantom, a master spy who had haunted American intelligence for decades. His name was Fritz Joubert Duquesne, South African adventurer, soldier of fortune. A man who had fought against the British in the Boer War and had nursed a bitter hatred for them ever since. During the First World War he had spied for Germany, planting bombs on British ships, charming, intelligent, utterly ruthless. Now, older but no less dangerous, once again in the service of Germany, this time for Hitler. He was the spy master, the spider weaving a network of betrayal across the United States. Duquesne's mission was simple and devastating. He was to gather intelligence that would cripple America's ability to help Britain, and eventually to fight a war. He and his agents were tasked with finding out everything they could about American military strength. New airplanes, ship movements, factory production. They were looking for weaknesses, for secrets that could be sent back to Berlin and used to sink ships and win battles. The Duquesne spy ring was not just a collection of individuals. It was a coordinated effort to undermine the United States from within. Before the first American shot of the war was even fired, the web he had spent years building was utterly destroyed. The spies needed a way to talk to their masters in Germany. This was the most dangerous part of their work. Sending a letter could take weeks, and it could be easily intercepted. They needed something faster, something more secret. The answer was technology. The German High Command provided them with the tools of modern espionage. One of the most important was the microdot. It was a marvel of miniaturization. An entire page of text, filled with shipping schedules and technical drawings, could be photographically reduced to the size of a period. This tiny dot could then be hidden on an otherwise innocent letter or postcard, nearly impossible to find. Another vital tool was the shortwave radio. William Siebold, under the FBI's guidance, was tasked with setting up a secret radio station. The Germans believed this station would be their direct line to their most important spy ring in America. From a small house on Long Island, Siebold would broadcast messages to a listening post in Hamburg, Germany. The messages were sent in a complex code, a series of numbers and letters that would sound like gibberish to anyone who happened to be listening. But in Germany, Nazi intelligence officers would be waiting, ready to decode the transmissions and learn America's secrets. The spies' methods for meeting were just as clever. They never met in the same place twice. A rendezvous might be arranged for a specific bench in Central Park at a precise time. Another might take place on a crowded ferry, where two people could exchange a folded newspaper containing a microdot without anyone noticing. The FBI's plan was brilliant in its simplicity. They would not just listen to the spies, they would become part of the spy ring itself. So they set up William Siebold in an office right in the heart of Manhattan. It was presented as the headquarters for a German import-export business. A perfect cover. The spies were told this was their main point of contact, the place to bring their information. One by one they came, eager to deliver their intelligence to what they believed was a direct link to the fatherland. They felt secure within the four walls of that office, thinking it was a sanctuary for their secret work. But honestly, it was actually the most dangerous place in the world for them. Every corner of that office was a trap. A motion picture camera hidden behind a specially designed two-way mirror on the wall, a microphone concealed in the ceiling, a secret room next door where FBI agents filmed and recorded every meeting. For 16 long months they watched as the Duquesne ring walked right into their trap. They filmed Herman Lang, an inspector, handing over top-secret blueprints for a new American bomb site. They recorded another spy describing the defenses at naval bases. The evidence they gathered was undeniable, captured on film for a jury to see. William Siebold played his part perfectly. It was a role that required incredible courage. He had to win the trust of hardened spies like Duquesne. He had to memorize technical details, use the correct code words, and never once show the fear he must have felt. Every day was a performance, and a single mistake could have been his last. By June of 1941, the FBI had seen enough. They had identified every key player in the Duquesne spy ring. They had mountains of evidence, over 100 hours of film, recordings of the spies incriminating themselves. The time for surveillance was over. The time for action had come. On a single day, June 28, 1941, FBI agents moved in. In coordinated raids across the country, they arrested the spies. There was no escape. They arrested Fritz Duquesne in his New York apartment. They arrested the factory workers. They arrested the shipping clerks. They arrested the couriers. The net that had been so carefully woven over 16 months was finally drawn tight. The trial that followed was a sensation. For the first time, the American public saw the face of the enemy within. But the most powerful testimony did not come from a witness on the stand. It came from the screen. In a hushed courtroom, the prosecution played the films taken by the hidden FBI cameras. The jury watched as the defendants, one after another, handed over secrets and boasted of their service to Nazi Germany. It was evidence that could not be argued with. The spies had convicted themselves with their own words and actions. The spider, Fritz Duquesne, and his entire network were caught. All 33 members of the spy ring were convicted. It was, and remains, the largest espionage case in the history of the United States to end in convictions. They were sentenced to a total of over 300 years in prison. Fritz Duquesne, the master spy who had evaded justice for so long, would die in a federal prison. The FBI's patient and brilliant counter-espionage operation had been a complete success. They had protected their country from a hidden danger, ensuring that when the time came to fight, America would be ready.